And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Well, the counting continues in 5 local races. One of New York's most powerful politicians is in hot water, as a former Albany heavyweight may soon be off the hook. All of this is fodder for my next guests. They are the insiders, 2 guys who have been around New York politics for longer than they would probably care to admit. And I've known them, too. Brendan Quinn is the former executive director of the New York State Republican Party. He is now working as a consultant, and he is joining us from Syracuse tonight. And Richie Fife is the former campaign manager for Governor David Paterson. He is now the president of RJF Communications. Thank you both for being here from opposite ends of the state.
Good to be with you.
Good evening, Liz.
I want to start with you, Brendan, because you are in the thick of that recount out in central New York in the 25th Congressional District. And tell us what is going on there.
Given the fact that you have new ballots and new machines, there's a new process that election commissioners around the state are getting comfortable with and getting used to. The first thing they had to go through was do an audit of all these machines as a mandatory 3% requirement. That's being done. They've started opening ballots out here already in Monroe, Onondaga, Monroe, Wayne, and Cayuga. Anne-Marie Buerkle has picked up votes each day. Her lead is continuing to grow, and they're going to start counting absentees actually tomorrow in Onondaga.
Okay, and you know, there have been some complaints about the handling of absentee ballots. I think that the Democrat, Dan Maffei, has been canvassing absentee voters and asking them about what kind of votes that they cast. Is that, I got to ask you, Richie, is that standard operating procedure? I haven't heard of that before.
Well, I think to find out what's going on, to investigate, to gain information is kind of standard operating procedure. I think in these processes, you know, the spin people from both sides, when one person picks up votes or the other person picks up votes, likes to put out a story, and partly that's just because the lawyers are very expensive and you need to raise a lot of money. But the fact is, you don't see trends in these things because the votes come from different areas and different places. I do think the absentee ballot should favor the incumbent because they were sent in earlier before the late surge by the challenger, and so we'll see. But I think the best thing in all this is to wait and see and wait for all the votes to be counted.
Do you agree with that, Brendan, that you think that the absentee ballots, this is a theory that some people subscribe to, the Democrat is the incumbent in this case, so it would not help the Republican, and of course that is not exactly what you're all about.
Well, there's a couple ways to shoot that down. One, there have been more Republican ballots returned than Democrat ballots. There have been more ballots returned from counties that were Anne-Marie Buerkle's strength. And you also have within Onondaga County, which is the battleground for this district, that there are more Republican ballots than Democrat ballots have been returned. You also have the fact that Anne-Marie Buerkle, with assistance through the Republican National Committee, did an aggressive absentee ballot program, mailing out applications to voters. And I've heard through my sources in the Democrat Party that Dan Maffei did not do that, to the point where some of the people have started jokingly called him Jim Tedesco of the Democrat Party.
Oh, ouch. Did you hear that, Richie? Did you hear that?
You know, that they compared him to a Republican, like, what an insult that is. I think the bottom line is it's time to wait, let all the votes be counted, and we'll see who the winner is. You know, in these kind of races, and you have it in the state senate races also, you're in a place, really, you're within the margin. It's really a tied election. And you have to go through this process, and I think both sides fight very hard because very few votes end up deciding them.
Well, actually, the problem here is, and not only are very few votes going to decide the congressional races, and the balance of power has already been decided in the House. It's flipped to the Republicans. In the state Senate races, it's a totally different story. And again, these recounts, that's part of the reason why these recounts are being fought so hard, is it not? It's all about who's going to control the state Senate. Brendan?
No. Oh.
Or Richard,
well, some of that is out there. But
sorry, guys. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, some of the problem I find, Richard's statement about let every ballot count, then could he explain why the Maffei campaign has been challenging ballots without giving a reason, and up in Monroe County, out of 200 ballots, they challenged 170 ballots, mainly seniors. Some of them are active duty servicemen. They're all Republicans without giving a reason. So if they want every ballot counted, then let's open them. Stop the BS.
Yeah,
let's open the ballots.
But it's not about the spin war. It's about counting the ballots. And it's, let the process go on and count the ballots.
Then let's open them. Let's open them. Then why are you challenging ballots without a reason?
Richard?
No, look, I don't know the specifics because I'm not up there, but the process is going through, and I think because very few votes challenge it, things that are in question, you challenge to keep it open. And I think both sides do that, and they've done it in every race, in every challenge. And I think let the votes be counted, and we'll find out who wins. As you said, in the Congress, it has the consequence is just who represents that district. In the state Senate, the stakes are frankly a lot higher because the balance of who controls the state Senate is going to be decided, and I think you're going to see a very kind of vicious kind of fight both ways.
Yeah, it's going to go on for quite some time. Let's move to another topic of some breaking news today, and we'll start with you, Richard, because it actually happens to do with the Democrats and Charlie Rangel. He, of course, has been found guilty on 11 of 13 ethics charges. Do you think he should step down?
Well, first, I think we should let the process complete where it is. I think even the prosecutor in this process has said there's no signs of corruption, there's no signs of personal gain, and what we had is someone who was careless with what he's doing. That said, you know, it's a sad thing to watch someone like Charlie Rangel, who's done so much over his 40-year career, who has fought so hard for the city and has gotten so much done, to watch this happen. And I think the charges are serious, and I think we have to see what happens.
Brendan, do you think he should step down?
Well, I think he should step down. I thought it was pretty comical that part of his defense that he came out with today is he couldn't afford his attorneys because he spent too much money. He owed them money. He couldn't continue in this. He had to go find a new lawyer, as if he didn't know this was happening. If Dan Maffei sent him back the $75,000 he gave him, he'd be able to have money to pay him.
Yeah, but he spent $1.4 million on lawyers. I don't know how far $75,000 would go, actually.
He spent close to $2 million on lawyers.
Right. I mean, well, that is a good point, though, that Brendan brings up. Richard, do you think, actually, that this was a stunt, that he knew, that Charlie Rangel knew that he was going to have a guilty verdict and he was trying to cast doubt on it?
You know, Congressman Rangel is a great showman. I think he knows that the best defense is a good offense. And I think he saw where this was heading, and rather than have a long, drawn-out trial, to come out and, you know, against the process and to his advantage. I think in the end, what the key is, what the prosecutor said was that there was no personal gain, there was no corruption on the congressman's part.
You know, I want to turn now also to another story it's actually been going on for about a week now. It is Andrew Cuomo, the governor-elect, has been announcing his transition committees, and it's all of these big names. I mean, there's just a laundry list of everyone, Republicans, Democrats, there's labor leaders, there's business leaders. Brendan, you've seen these transitions before. How is it that anything gets done, or is this really just window dressing?
This is a lot of window dressing. He's named everyone out there except the three of us, I think. And you look at this, it is a lot of window dressing, and you know, this is all part of the show and to set the stage for going forward. But if you are serious about this, behind the scenes there's real work going on, determining policy, putting together a budget, because he has a very short window to put a budget out there, and that's where this is really going to decide what's his first term, his first few months is setting that budget, setting the tone. Is he serious about cutting spending? Is he serious about going forward? How is he going to handle the unions? It's going to be very interesting for me to watch.
So, Richard, do you think that he actually should bother with a transition committee this large then at all?
Well, I think there is a process in this, and this is the kind of big inside bombshells you're getting from the both of us, that this is really more show than nothing else, and I know no one could have figured that out. But I think there is a process which is good for both sides. It's a way for him as governor to reach out to people. It's people who are on it, appreciate it. And there is something you do get from that process is that people generate new names. Through in their committees, people you would not have thought of or approached about serving in the new administration, and I think that's important. You know, I do think, you know, Andrew Cuomo, who talked about the new New York, I think we see a lot of the old New York on these committees, and I think we need an administration, a lot of innovation, a lot of new people and new energy, because there's real problems the state is facing.
So you think it would have been more effective then for him to have smaller committees made up of less well-known people instead of having sort of giving everybody kudos by putting them on these show committees?
No, because I think the truth is he has both. I don't think these committees, I think, do meet. I think it brings in new people and generates new ideas through the process. It's not it's not driving the process, because you do have the inner circle that's still driving that process, and you have someone who's been around Albany, been around government a long time, who I think has a very good sense of what he wants to do.
We also had this new old name come back into the news. That's Senator Bruno. He's the majority leader, of course, former majority leader of the Senate. And now this is sort of bizarre letter where the feds are almost conceding that he's probably, the convictions on 2 corruption charges aren't going to stand. Brenda, did you get a chance to take a look at this, a break from counting out there in central New York?
I saw that briefly today. It was a very strange letter because it was almost as if they were trying to open the door that maybe we're going to do something and try to force the Bruno team to come to the table and have some type of discussion. The law that he was charged under has been overturned and found unconstitutional, so his conviction should be overturned. It's very simple.
Richard, do you believe that?
Well, I mean, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know the law, but clearly the Supreme Court overturned what the case was based on, and I think Senator Bruno has a right to appeal and come back.
Well, I think we're talking about the theft of honest services statute that the U.S. Supreme Court overturned or dealt with earlier in the year. In the meantime, I want to thank both of you guys. There's a lot more on my laundry list, but unfortunately we don't have time to get to it. I want to thank you, Richie Fife in New York City, and Brendan Quinn somewhere out there in central New York. Good luck with your recount, and Richard will be speaking to you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck counting those ballots out there.